Hello guys, welcome back to my channel and enjoy this fanfic part 3. Now let's start the fanfic. As Naruto made his way to the now conscious and cowering Root Anbu led by Jiraiya, Sasuke was himself struggling to stand up to the so-called demon. Jiraiya was trying to use his senjutsu chakra only to find that as Naruto got closer his senjutsu got weaker up to the point where he fell down on the ground glaring at Naruto. Naruto walked up close enough within a foot away from the Sannin as he kneeled down with his ethereal robes floating around him, his smile mocking the white-haired Sannin as he taunted him. Isn't this a surprise? The great Jiraiya lying on the ground as if he has no energy left. How does it feel to be at somebody else's mercy? Doesn't feel none too good, does it? Well, speak my so-called godfather so I may hear your opinion about your current situation. Guiding his teeth, Jiraiya hissed. Damn you demon, you and your Ing family. I should have killed you in your crib when you were a few hours old, but my Ing sensei the third just had to watch you like a hawk to fulfill his obligations to your father. But that was fine. Father and mother took advantage of the situation and made a ton of new laws, and I was the one that released the information that you were the demon container. You were nothing to me. And with me knowing your father's Rasengan, spiraling sphere, I could have been greater if I had just broken into the Uzumaki Namikaze compound and stole everything, but no, your father was too perceptive, so he sealed the compound with that Uzumaki-made blood seal. I was so frustrated at everything ing up. I wanted to be rich, to have so many s at my beck and call that when I die I have hundreds of children. Your family keepsing up my plans. I was gonna take Tsunade as my first and have her pop out Senju babies all year long for the rest of her natural life. You stupid useless piece of demon trash. Smirking once again and standing up spoke. Well, just for that insult, Jiraiya, I'm gonna take your right arm and balls as punishment, but before I start, did you ever rape any of my friends that were captured by your little hounds? Whatever you answer is you're still gonna lose something, so go ahead and tell me. Giving Naruto a foolish grin. Why was it foolish? Because any person that was in this type of situation would have shut the hell up and don't say anything. Unfortunately, Jiraiya was secretly an arrogant, twisted individual with no qualms about saying stuff about all the atrocities he had help in doing. Thus his brain told him Naruto was not the type to kill enemies that couldn't fight back, so he spoke the next words in arrogance. Haha, of course I did, demon. I was the that always went first. I can still remember when their little bodies struggled under me. It was so fun. Of course sometimes they'd occasional die from me being too excited. I love those little girls that can't fight back. It's so fun, aren't able to do anything but take it like a. Smiling a devious smile, Naruto spoke in a tone that meant instant death. Oh, so you were there first, huh? I loved my friends with all my heart. You may think I won't attack you just because you're down, but you're wrong. Heck, ask Sooms Wolf. When I ate his eyeball for trying to attack me, wasn't looking, so I jumped him and ripped out his eyeball with my bare hands. Now then, so you just admitted that you're a pedophile as well, raping little children. What a disgrace of a man you are. I'm sure the Shinigami is really gonna enjoy torturing your stupid for all eternity for all you've done, but first things first, I'm gonna take away what you used to defile my friends. Naruto used his right leg to force Jiraiya to flip over before looking around and finding a discarded ninjutsu and walking back to Jiraiya, who was trying to crawl away from Naruto. Jiraiya exclaimed, "Wow, what the hell are you gonna do with that demon? Because it would be great if you just commit suicide so we can end this right here, right now." Moving even closer and placing the ninjutsu near Jiraiya's genitals, he said, "Commit suicide? You really are a arrogant shit, aren't you, old man? I'm not gonna commit suicide, no. I'm gonna cut off you and testicles so you can't ever rape another child ever again, so stay still so I can make it a clean cut. I don't want you to die yet, Jiraiya, no. I want you to suffer in knowing that you have failed, that through me I will destroy you all. You demon. No, you Jiraiya the." Naruto suddenly swept his sword down on his genitals and cut them off as a large pool of blood began to show between Jiraiya's legs. Naruto himself, while Jiraiya was distracted, suddenly grabbed the testicles and threw them in the air and silently and triumphantly shouted, "A meter ASU," quickly setting all the pieces on fire in front of Jiraiya. Within Naruto's mind he was hearing a few female cheers and a few other voices saying, "I should have done that too. Ah. Demon, look what you've done, my precious. as he stared at the ashes of his genitals floated down to the ground in front of him. Now Jiraiya, go to sleep. As Naruto used the flat end of the sword to knock Jiraiya unconscious as he slumped on the ground in pain. Quickly turning his attention towards his former Jonin-sensei teammate as he walked, any Root Anbu was stabbed in the head, killing them instantly. By the time Naruto had reached Kakashi, he had killed a total of 40 Root Anbu, had holes in their heads from the force of Naruto's stabs to their skull. Stopping down besides the two bastards for a few seconds, they just stared at each other before he got a devious idea and closed his eyes. Naruto opened them to reveal that a fully evolved Sharingan in both eyes as he stared at them both with his tomos in his eyes spinning lazily before he smiled at Kakashi. So Kakashi-sensei, are you gonna train me now that I have the Sharingan? Ain't I special as well, sensei? Come on sensei, speak to me please. His eye twitching in rage, Kakashi shouted, you don't deserve those eyes, demon. I knew that your mother was a horse. She probably ate an Uchiha and got herself knocked up with you, and having those eyes just proves that your mother was a whore. Naruto's smile vanished as he released a huge burst of killing intent towards Kakashi, who froze in place. You have no idea about my family, you gray-haired piece of shit. Do you wanna know why I have the Sharingan, huh? My mother is the granddaughter of Madara Uchiha, you stupid shit. She was never a whore. Just because you were desperate to make me feel like shit doesn't mean you can disrespect my mother's honor. Your mother has no honor, she is nothing but a whore to me. Just for that I'm gonna take away the one thing you are so proud of. Reaching towards his other hidden Sharingan eye, Naruto had his hands poised just above Kakashi's Sharingan. Say goodbye to your Sharingan, Kakashi, as he plucked out his Sharingan straight from Kakashi's eye socket itself, causing him to scream out in intense pain. Naruto, grabbing Kakashi by his hair, forced him to watch his Sharingan before Naruto whispered, look at it, Kakashi, this was the eye that made you famous, now watch me crush this eye in the palm of my hand. Naruto began to squeeze eye as the eye burst in his palm, causing all the fluids of the eye to splatter all over his hand. You here sensei, have your eyes back. As he began to wipe the remains of the eyeball from his hands to Kakashi's face before swiftly knocking out Kakashi, who slumped over in shock. Turning toward the terrified Sasuke, Naruto whispered, now what to do with you? Oh, I know. Quickly going behind him, Naruto out his foot on Sasuke's back as he grabbed both his arms and began to pull them back as Naruto mockingly said, you seem to be very attached to your arms. ... So I'm gonna take them away from you, okay? Naruto pulled until he heard bones break and kept pulling. He was ensuring that Sasuke was weakened enough that he wouldn't be a threat later in life. Sasuke, without saying another word, fell face first unconscious from pain. Flipping Sasuke on his back, he done the same thing as he did Kakashi and tore out one of his eyes, broken arms and only one Sharingan. Perfect. Naruto turning towards the remaining Root Anbu, which only number less than 20. Now then, let's release all of you so you would at least put up a fight. Releasing his pressure and using the same ninjutsu and charged at the remaining Root Anbu. Imagine when Madara began to bitch slap the Shinobi Alliance in canon. Charging pure chakra into the ninjutsu, igniting it in pure light. The first to fall to his onslaught was 6 Root Anbu, who stupidly thought they could hold their ground, were cut to pieces from a single sweep and sending bodies parts to land all over the field. 2 Root Anbu threw a barrage of kunai mixed with exploding tags. All the kunai were instantly stopped by an invisible force field which stopped the steel barrage as Naruto grabbed all the exploding tags and threw them right back, hitting not only the 2 Root Anbu who threw them and another 5 others. The remaining 7 Root, finding that they were unable to access their chakra, decided to charge Enmus in an attempt to swamp Naruto by numbers alone, which was ultimately doomed to fail. Naruto himself waited patiently. Finally, at the last second, he reacted by grabbing 2 Root by their heads and slamming their heads together and slamming their heads so hard that their skulls exploded into pieces. Another 2 Root charged at him with ninjutsus while his back was turned. Only for Naruto used the corpses of the 2 recently deceased Root as projectiles and threw them at the 2 Root, knocking them back and giving Naruto time to get between them and once again attempt to stab him, but at the last minute shunshooned away and unable to stop their forward momentum ended up stabbing each other instead, who slumped down dead. Naruto finally turned back towards the remaining root. He decided that he would just crush them. Grabbing 2 kunai, he threw them at the remaining root, scrolling instant kills but leaving the last remaining root alive, who himself was cowering. Naruto walked slowly but purposely towards the remaining root, who Naruto, using his sensing, was only a child. Said root child was shakingly holding up his ninjutsu in an attempt to show a strong front, only to fail miserably. Finally, Naruto, channeling chakra to his fingers, began to cut the ninjutsu to pieces before grabbing the boy by his mask and ripping it off to reveal a boy with gray hair and light-colored eyes showing extreme fear. The terrified boy was shakingly dragged to his feet by Naruto via his Anbu vest, and as Naruto smiled, "Now little root, do you know why I didn't kill you like your pieces of shit comrades?" Receiving a shaking of the head, Naruto answered, "Of course I need you to bring home these 3 back to Konoha and tell them what happened here. Tell them that I now have the power to destroy and protect. If they come after me and my group, I will personally drop a rock on Konoha, understood?" Why yes sir. Good, now get to it, brat." Causing the root to run off to seal the 3 remaining members of their group who hadn't retreated yet or were deceased with a 90% casualty rate. It was a devastating lose for Konoha, and because of the number of elites lost in battle, Konoha who not be able to go forward with any of their plans to dominate the elemental nations for at least 5 years. The boy hastily ran away with the scrolls containing the wounded and fled. Finally satisfied that there won't gonna any more enemies, Naruto turned his attention back towards the corpses of his friends as his own chakra robes dissolved to be used at a later date. The first corpse he headed straight to was his adoptive sister Ayame. Grabbing a nearby discarded blanket, Naruto gently and mercifully wrapped up her mutilated corpse. The last bit was her head, onto which Naruto gently kisses his adoptive sister's head as he whispered, "I'm sorry Ne-san, I couldn't protect you. You and your father helped me bring back hope in my dark life. I swear I will never allow any more of my loved ones to die ever again if could help it." Naruto felt a familiar presence behind him. As he turned around, he saw the disheveled Tenten standing behind him with tears in her eyes as she spoke amid tears. "Naruto-kun, it's Tsunade-sama. She's dying, Naruto-kun, and she wants you to be by your side in the end." No. Nor her, not my grandmother as well, damn it, please no." As he grabbed Tenten by her hand and instantly flashed towards where his newly found grandmother was, surrounded by Naruto's remaining supporters. Among them was a shell-shocked Konohamaru, who stood up and ran towards Naruto, hugging him as he cried, "Ni-san, Oji-san. Everyone's gone. What are we gonna do?" Naruto kneeled down to comfort the young boy as he soothed him. "We carry on and do our best. You are the youngest out of all of us that remain, so you have the most time to learn and grow, and I myself will do my best to help you become stronger as well." "Yes, Ni-san. Now go and rest, okay?" As Anko led Konohamaru away to rest somewhere away from the battlefield carnage, turning his attention back towards his grandmother, who was being attended to by his now first cousin Shizune, who was trying to heal her master but failing as every wound that she suffered continued to reopen with new gushes of blood each time. Kneeling down, he saw an unusually quiet guy in Lee, whose bowl haircuts was messy and covered in dust and blood, with Lee himself sporting a black eye and a bruise on his left cheek. "How is she, Shizune Itoko-san?" Lifting her head, he saw Shizune's formerly flawless pale skin was bloodied with a bandage covering her head, probably from a head injury she suffered in battle. Her eyes red from tears, stress she suffered during the battle and almost execution. Still smiled at Naruto. "Naruto-chan, I'm glad you're okay. At least with you I know I still have family left in this world." Naruto nodded his head. "I'm glad too. I thought everyone of my family died too. I'm glad I still have at least a cousin left." Shizune nodded and returned back to Tsunade, who at this moment was unconscious from blood loss but was now in a stable condition due to Shizune's efforts, but she also knew that Tsunade didn't much time left. Tsunade weakly opened her eyes towards Naruto and smiled weakly. Her voice, barely a whisper, was still heard by those present. "My Naruto-chan, my own Mago grandson, blood of the Senju clan and blood of the noble Uchihas, you are destined for great things. It's in your blood to be great. Whether you will be as calculating as a Uchiha, as courageous as a Senju, or as inventive as a Uzumaki, it doesn't matter, because I will always be proud of you." Tsunade looked towards those that remained as she prepared to give her final orders. "As my final order, you will all continue to remain with Naruto and find a new home. he will be your new leader. I want you all to find peace. The original plan is compromised, it can't be trusted, you must find another place. Possibly beyond the elemental nations. To the war-torn western continent you can make your home and settle your weary heads in peace. No nation has had the military strength to invade the west. Just keep your heads low. And you should be fine. Naruto-kun, Tenten-chan have lots of children. I want to look down from heaven and see all my descendants happy and strong. These are my last wishes. With her last wishes said, Tsunade gave up her life to save the life of her grandson, her last known relative left in the world. Naruto stood up with tears in his eyes as he moved slightly away to begin digging the graves of his deceased friends on top of a hill near the battlefield, as the site of the graves hidden away by camouflage seals to hide their graves from desecration by returning Konoha recovery teams. Returning to the site of the battle, Naruto himself carved a simple gravestone for them with the words, "For all my friends that have died I swear." The whole grave digging was performed by Naruto's shadow clones so all of his friends could rest. Tsunade herself was buried under the shade of a cherry blossom tree forever in its beautiful shower of petals, while the rest of his deceased friends were buried along the hill itself. Tenten a number of hours later begins to get worried over Naruto and returns to the gravesite. Quickly spotting Naruto at the top of the hill standing near Tsunade's grave, steadily climbing up, she found multiple graves of all Naruto's friends. Near the top of the hill were the graves of Asuma Sarutobi, the Ichiraku family, Yugao Azuki, Iruka Yumino and Ryu Higurashi, all with simple grave markers made by Naruto himself. Finally reaching the top of the hill, Tenten saw him watching his grandmother's grave somberly before sensing Tenten behind him as Naruto turned around and smiled at her. As Naruto walked up to her and embraced her in his arms, they remained quiet, just enjoying each other's presence and warmth. Before Naruto spoke, "Tenten-chan, you remember that girl we met in Takigakure, the one who I made the same promise to you as to her as well?" Nodding her head in understanding, let Naruto continue to speak. "Well, one of my new abilities is to speak to other tailed beasts. I was during the time I was healing found out that they were gonna turn Fu into breeding stock when she turns 15, so she begged me to bring her with us to the western continent. Is it alright, Tenten-chan?" Tenten immediately smiled at Naruto and nodded. "So we're gonna retrieve Fu-chan, huh? That's okay, besides I don't mind sharing you anyway. You need all the love you can get. That sometimes I can't give, and remember I was there with you." "So of course I remember, but how are we gonna retrieve her? I thought she was living in Taki itself." "No, Ten-chan, the council of Taki have decided that she would be used as a guard dog for them and used as a war deterrent against other countries, and thus keep her outside of the village under Anbu guard, and those Anbu are loyal to the council, not to Shibuki. That's why I have no qualms about killing her guards." Wouldn't Shibuki-san be worried?" "Not from what I heard. Despite the fact she is a Jinchuriki, he was forced to continue in a political battle similar to the third Hokage and the two councils, rendering him incapable of helping her." "Then where is she now?" "From the last time she spoke to me, actually near here. Her and the Anbu were actually on the way here to investigate what had happened here. They should be here in an hour, so wake everyone up that can still fight." 1 hour later, Naruto, Anko, Guy and Tenten hid in the trees as they watched a group of 5 shinobis wearing Takigakure headbands or masks emerged out of the treeline to the site of the day's battle. Leading them was an Anbu wearing a cloak of a Anbu captain who signaled the only unmasked shinobi present, and even from this distance Naruto could feel the hatred rolling off the Anbu in waves. Although Naruto himself has now got a much powerful killing intent than any Anbu left alive. Guy and Anko, after hearing about how Naruto planned to retrieve Fu, with Guy actually becoming enthusiastic about it because it seemed like they were rescuing a damsel in distress, Anko herself, after hearing that when she was at childbearing age of 15 would be used as a slave, clearly enraged her as she herself willingly agreed. The Anbu captain turning towards Fu, and even hidden beneath his mask Fu could see the Mon's smirk as he gave her an order. "Alright, demon, the council of Taki has ordered us to investigate this area and find out what happened here, and seeing as you're a demon, we're just gonna sit this one out while you look for anything useful among the corpses, understood?" Without lifting her head, Fu answered, "Yes, sir." "Oh yeah, if you don't find anything you don't get to eat for a week, understood?" Yes, sir. Naruto, hearing this conversation, was enraged. One of his precious people was being treated like a dog and nobody could stop it. Closing his eyes, Naruto spoke to Fu telepathically. Fu-chan, we're here. I'm gonna be sending Guy-sensei and Anko to deal with Anbu while me and Ten-chan are gonna retrieve you, okay? Yes, I understand, and thank you, Naruto-kun. Don't mention it, Fu-chan, I told you. You are one of my precious people. I won't tolerate you getting abused. Here we go. Naruto signals Guy and Anko, who move stealthily along the treeline towards the unsuspecting Taki Anbu, who within a few seconds are killed, or in the case of the Anbu captain, subdued by Guy. Naruto and Tenten emerged from the treeline straight for Fu, who was waiting anxiously for her crush and future sister wife, and quickly brightened up and ran towards the two in excitement and true happiness. Hugging them both, Fu was shouting, Naruto-kun, Ten-chan, you're really here to help me. Tenten, smiling at her long-distance friend, just said, it's alright, Fu-chan, me and Naruto have the same nindo. We always keep our promises, so of course we'd come and help you, right, Naruto-kun? Naruto, scratching the back of his head, answered, of course I promised you that I would care for the both of you. Back then I didn't know what that promised entitled, but now I know. But I still accept, but only if you, Fu-chan, accepts herself. Of course I accept. You two brought back my faith in humanity. You made me feel loved despite only just meeting me, and that is something I would always remember. So even if I have to share Naruto-kun, it's fine. I always wanted a big family. The three young teenagers headed straight towards Guy and Anko, who were standing around the bound and gagged while Anko was cleaning her nails with a kunai, and Lee and Konohamaru, led by Shizune, arrived as well, carrying their remaining supplies, sit them with Lee carrying the most. Naruto moved up to them to introduce Fu to his other friends, Shizune, Ito-kochan, Lee-san and Konohamaru-san. This is Fu-chan, formerly of Takigakure Jinchuriki of the Seven-Tailed Beetle, also known as Lucky Seven Chome. Konohamaru smiles at her innocently and asks, hey Nii-san, is this your other girlfriend? Smirking at his adoptive little brother, of course she is. Isn't she beautiful as Ten-chan? Yay, they're both beautiful. You're a lucky guy, Nii-san. Shizune walked up to them next. So you're my Itoko's other girlfriend, huh? I'm a censor and I could feel your kindness flowing out of you, so we'll just work out fine. Turning toward the Anbu captain, who had his mask removed, was glaring daggers the whole group until Naruto punched him in the face, making several teeth fall out. Naruto kneeled down to eye level of the captain. Alright, Mr. Anbu captain, what you done goes against every bit of humanity in my veins, and I also heard you people were planning was turning her into a slave. How do you plead? I got nothing to say to you, demon lover, so go ahead and kill me. Gaining a devious grin, no, I got a better idea, council dog. I'm gonna kill you, but I'll teach all those that come after you a lesson about respecting people's wishes. As his body was once again engulfed in chakra robes, as he raised his hand, which had seemed to be ignited in white flames, and this is how. Less than 10 minutes later, the Anbu captain was staked to a tree with his team's ninjatus impaling his hands and legs to a tree with a sign tied to his neck with the words, Council Dog, in big bold letters. As the steadily fleeting shadows of Naruto's heavily decimated group fled the battlefield, it would take a whole 2 days before ANBUs from both villages would be able to retrieve the bodies of their dead, with the Anbu route personally led by the heavily wounded Danzo, who had lost his arm and right eye, and the Taki Anbu personally led by Shibuki, where a confrontation took place between the two groups until they decided to take home their dead, but left both villages in a state of strained diplomacy for years to come, eventually leading the two villages in a small war. Meanwhile, near the border of Hai no Kuni and Kei's no Kuni, two figures were jumping from tree to tree as if in pursuit of something. One of the people, clearly male, called out, "We must hurry, we need to catch up to him and his group if we are to find safety now. Hurry, if you can't jump anymore I'll carry you, just a little longer, they're up ahead at the end of the forest." The other shorter figure was who was straining to breath and talk at the same time, "Yes sensei, I'll do my best." Both, finally seeing the end of the forest, breathed a sigh of relief, burst out of the forest into the grasslands, where a short distance away was a small encampment. As both figures, cloaked and hooded, stood up before both felt a kunai next to their necks. Both turned slightly toward the person who got between them and gasped, as this man was clad in robe like chakra, Okay, who the hell are you and why are you following us? You have 5 seconds before I cut your throats. Well. The taller hooded figure raised his hands only to find the kunai pressing closer to his neck. Wait, I'm just gonna remove my hood, okay? AFTWR. Lifting his traveling hood from his head revealed the man underneath. My name is Utakata, formerly of Kiri Jinchuriki of the Six-Tailed Slug Seiken. Utakata was a tall, thin young man with pale golden eyes and brown hair that reaches to his shoulders. He wore a long, light blue kimono adorned with a small emblem of 3 bubbles on the back, and a pair of gray pants underneath, with an orange sash. The kimono hung loose, exposing his chest. In it, he carried a bamboo jug filled with a soap solution, and a pipe. Naruto Uzumaki, formerly of Konoha Jinchuriki of the Nine-Tailed Demon Fox, and well, he won't let me say his name until he finds you worthy. See, I'm just the same as you and I would never betray a person that had suffered just like me, and this person is my traveling companion Hotaru. Naruto nodded and turned towards the shorter figure, who slowly removed the hood covering her head, revealing the features of Hotaru, a young woman with dark green eyes, a widow's peak, and blonde wavy hair that goes past her shoulders. She wears a light violet and white top, black shorts, a black skirt, black high boots and light violet wristbands. She is rather short, as shown when standing in front of Naruto. I am Hotaru Tsushigumo, pleased to meet you, sir. Despite thinking in his head that Hotaru was unique beauty, Naruto had to turn back towards his fellow Jinchuriki and asked, so why have you been pursuing us for the last 3 days, Utakata-san? We wanted to follow you into safety. You may not know this, but I was there. Part of the chakra given to you to give you that chakra robe a bit came from me and Seiken. We were present in your mindscape when you unlocked your power. Kneeling down, Utakata bowed his head and shouted, please, Uzumaki-sama, descendant of the Raikudo Sennin, I beg you for your protection, and on my part swear that I will serve you faithfully. No, I won't accept your loyalty. Utakata looked disappointed. But I will accept your friendship, so stand up, Utakata-san. I will never accept servitude of a fellow Jinchuriki, as the Biju themselves are siblings, so all Jinchuriki should treat other Jinchuriki as family as well. Do you accept? Brother. Utakata himself had a soft smile on his face as he nodded as well. I accept. Brother. Naruto clapping his hands, he gave both Hotaru and Utakata a friendly hug. Then, welcome, brother and his girlfriend. Everyone in my group is waiting. A few minutes later, Naruto leading his new companions through a hidden minefield of traps and explosive tags that littered their encampment perimeter, making both Hotaru and Utakata sigh in relief that Naruto had stopped them from moving any closer to their encampment, or they would have been killed several different ways. Around the encampment was 6 other people, 1 man, 1 teenage boy and a young boy, and 3 young women, a dark-haired woman with dark brown hair, a brown-haired girl with her hair tied into buns making the girl look a bit like a panda, and finally a young mint green-haired girl wearing white clothes. All these people immediately walked up to Naruto and greeted Naruto, with the green-haired girl and the bun-haired girl hugging Naruto much more closer than what friends were meant to be. Turning back towards Utakata and Hotaru, he gestured to them to introduce themselves to the rest of the group. Naruto turned towards his group and spoke, alright everyone, I'd like to introduce to you 2 people that has been following us for a little while now. How about you 2 introduce yourselves? Utakata stepped forward first and said, my name is Utakata Missing Nin from Kurigakure no Sato and current Jinchuriki of the Six-Tailed Slug, also known as Seiken. As he stepped back and let Hotaru introduce herself. My name is Hotaru Tsushigumo, former heiress of the Tsushigumo clan of Hai no Kuni. I was recently deposed by the Magaki group led by Shiranami Tsushigumo and Root Anbu, and have no place else to go other than be with Utakata sensei. Everyone was listening and were actually worried when she said she was deposed by Root Anbu, but everyone saw Utakata shake his head when she said Utakata was her sensei. Alright, let me introduce my group. This is Maeda Guy, formerly the Green Beast of Konoha. His students Rock Lee and Tenten Higurashi. The short-haired woman in the dark kimono is Shizune Kato, my cousin and the grandson of the 3rd Hokage Konohamaru Sarutobi, and Anko Midarashi, formerly the Snake Princess of Konoha, and Fu, formerly of Takigakure. As everybody shook their hands in greeting when Utakata and Fu shook hands, Utakata instantly knew who she was and smiled softly at her. So there are 3 Jinchuriki in the same group, huh? It's good to be around family and friends. Naruto coughed to get everyone's attention. Alright everyone, we need to plan out where we need to go from here. Our initial plan has been compromised, so we'll go with plan B. The elemental nations is totally unsafe at this moment, so we have to make a forced march toward one of the deep-sea ports on the western coast of Kase no Kuni and attempt to charter a ship to the western continent where we could hide away in the midst of the chaos in that land. From what Bachan said, there are no one from this side of the continent that has had the balls to cross the seas in a sizable enough force to really make a difference, so we'd be safe from Konoha as well. Is everyone in agreement of this plan? Receiving a complete agreement of their plan of action for their survival, Naruto nodded and gave in a serious tone, "Alright everyone, we leave first thing tomorrow, burn anything we don't need, okay?" For the rest of the night the group spent time having dinner and talking. Eventually everybody began to go to sleep, with Tenten and Fu entering the tent that they also shared with Naruto, leaving Naruto and Utakata the last remaining people left watching the dying flames of their campfire die away to ash. Utakata took this moment to ask his young leader about his relationships. Naruto-san, what is your relationship with Tenten-san and Fu-san? Naruto scratching his head in embarrassment. Well, I was on a mission with Ten-chan to Takigakure no Sato when I met Fu. I got to know her and found that we had a similar history to another, and Ten-ten who was also present. I swore to them that I would care for them to my last breath. Now I didn't know it at the time, but I had actually proposed to both of them at the same time, and them being more smarter than me accepted, and now we're engaged to be married. After the mission I had asked the 3rd Hokage about it and said it was fine. Heck, I received an acceptance from both Shibuki and Tenten's father of their acceptance of the marriage contracts I accidentally made, and we've been engaged ever since. Utakata was blinking in surprise and began to chuckle. Haha, so you accidentally got engaged because you made such a promise, but still Naruto-san, I'm still impressed. You got 2 loving girls like those 2 who seem to genuinely love you. Love is hard to find, Naruto-san, but you hit the double jackpot with those 2. Haha, I know. Now let's call it a night. Hotaru-san's waiting for you. Touché, Naruto-san, touché. The next morning, the small encampment was packed in less than an hour with the assistance of Naruto's shadow clones to assist everyone in their morning chores. With everyone donning their traveling cloaks and sealing away their equipment in scrolls, they made speed to journey ahead and bypass the areas patrolled by Suna shinobi. It took an extra 3 more days to reach the port city of Kase no Dansu no Maki, Wind Dance City, one of the few merchant cities that had ships designed to travel the seas to the western continent, which were known for its pirates and massive sea lizards that attacked ships when given a chance. Naruto's group found their way into one of the smaller inns near the port as they ended up settling down and resting for the night with their search for a merchant ship that will take them to the west to start the next day. The group, still feeling paranoid, placed seals on their doors and rooms so no one could break down the door. That night Naruto received a mental message from his parents to meet with them and the Jinchuriki that he had brought along into his mindscape, which the other 2 Jinchuriki completely agreed to. Sitting in a circle and holding each other's hands, they focused of where they all wanted to go and ended up once again within Naruto's mind. Within Naruto's mind, Naruto and his fellow Jinchuriki once showed up in the middle of the endless expanse of their meeting place and found them staring down at Naruto's family before they leapt down to join them. The sage looked at them and smiled. So these are the 2 you have made friends with. That's good considering your plan of action to leave for the west. I had you 3 come here to tell you of some of the things that you will likely encounter. The first you will first encounter, which is en route to the west itself, the great sea lizards. The leviathans are massive creature that can grow to the size of whales and are also very vicious and bloodthirsty. Only the Otsutsuki clan had been known to be able to completely tame them. Although they can be tamed by others, their primal instinct would be to serve you. Naruto moving his hands back and forth. Wait, you're telling me that I can have eventually a huge sea lizard to kill ships with? Hagoromo nodded. Yes, that's right. Cool. Smiling at Naruto's enthusiasm, Hagoromo moved on. The next creature you will likely encounter are the Yukai and Hanyas that are present in the northwestern continent in large populations and colonies and are in my own opinion are very decent beings with kind heart but are also very fierce when angered. The three main clans present in the west are the Neko clan, Inu clan and the Kitsune clan. Now I'm gonna tell you their differences starting with the Neko cat clan. The Neko clan predominantly specialized in making medicine and often act as medics and doctors and have also known to have extensive herb gardens and are top-notch herbalists using rare herbs to create cures for any ailment known and unknown. While the Hanyu themselves within the clan may not be as good medics as their pure-blood relatives, instead are masters at making very potent poisons and act as the soldiers of the clan with their poisoned weapons being used to kill many enemies. Now their faces look much like humans but have cat's tails and narrowed eyes with the signature cat's eye to represent them as members of the clan. Their main clan symbol is a cat's tail over a blue field. Naruto nodded his head in appreciation. They seem like very decent people and very good assassins as well. They'd be great allies to have. The next clan is the Inu dog clan. This clan of Yukais and Hanyas, the polar opposite of the Neko clan. While the Neko clan are medics and healers, the Inu clan specialize in blacksmithing, thus make some of the most finest weapons and armor ever made, and their armor and weapons are of such rarity that wars are started just to obtain a sword, and due to their somewhat feral nature also makes them some of the best soldiers that you could have in your army. Their Hanyas within their clan are also great miners who make the finer things made and are prone to be artisans and miners with great taste in the right metals for the right sort of job. Inu members are recognized by their white mane of hair which are hidden. The dog ears of the clan Yukai have their tails wrapped around their waist like a belt, while Hanyas like to keep their white hair short only up to neck level with no tails at all. The third and final clan you would encounter, Yukai, Hanyu, or the Kitsune clan. The Yukai within the clan have somehow the ability to manipulate the forest and water, similar to how Tobirama can literally pull water out of the air itself and Hashirama can use Mokuden to create forests. These Yukais could also do these things. A presence of Kitsune Yukai in a farming community would be a great boom indeed due to their ability to make plants grow. These Yukai love nature and tend to run their own orchards and farms due to just having a hobby for it instead of any real need. But don't be fooled, once you befriend a Yukai they will love you like family and will defend you as such. Many bandits in my time had stupidly attacked villages under the protection of a Yukai. Enraged, the Yukai found the encampment and using their ability to pull water out of thin air cause a tsunami to kill the Hu bandit camp in the matter of seconds. Kitsune Hanyu are much more wild than their pure-blood relatives and have attained the ability to gain a Kitsune sage mode through extreme meditation and tend to the forests themselves, reveling in wilderness environments unlike their more settled relatives, and often wear durable green fatigues when in the wilderness. The featurea found within the clan is somewhat more varied more than other clans, as some have facial feature that are completely fox-like, making them very like bipedal foxes and tend to have more than one tail as they age. The Hanyas within the clan have fox ears and tails hanging loosely, often touching the ground, but are very well tended, as the Hanyas themselves are very good at shiatsu and acupuncture due to their delicate hands, using their sage mode to find the damaged chakra points to heal the unhealable. Now children, we will continue this lesson at a later date for when it's convenient. Dismissed children. With that, the three Jinchurikis returned to the hotel room and ran off to prepare for their dinner with their friends at the dining table. Naruto was being double-fed ramen by Fu and Tenten, while Hotaru was trying the same thing with Utakata with minimal success. Lee and Guy ended up having a eating contest and was completely ignoring everyone else in favor of seeing who can eat the most bowls of ramen, while Anko, taking advantage of their money, was drinking from a barrel of western wine from a certain Kitsune orchard near Genbu City. This went on before everyone called it quits and went to bed, with Anko passed out from too much alcohol, and Guy and Lee had to be taken to their rooms by Naruto's shadow clones. Thus ended the group's last night in the elemental nations with a ramen and sake eating and drinking spree. Just like a party. The next morning, Naruto's group, some still sporting hangovers, Anko, and stomach aches, Guy and Lee, were off towards the port area to charter a merchant ship, because despite how strong they all were, didn't mean they could run all the way to the western continent despite what Guy said. Naruto was himself looking for the right ship to take them, avoiding any that Naruto sensed ill intent, especially towards any of the women in the group, until he overheard a merchant speaking to one of the ship's captain. Look sir, our squad of samurai were nearly wiped out the last time we were in the western continent. I can't do any wine trading if you're not willing to provide me and my crew the necessary protection, especially with those damn pirates and sea lizards attacking vessel. I may have to petition the K's daimyo to close the trade lanes to the west. It just isn't worth it. Fine, but this is the last run, then we'll have to buy as much wine as possible. I'll look around for some missing nin instead of samurai, maybe they would survive longer. At best it should only take a week to get to the west and another week and a half to buy all the wine and to return back to K's no Kuni. Naruto walked up to the two men and coughed to get their attention. Excuse me sir, but I happen to hear that you are in need of some shinobi for escort duty to the western continent. Me and group are missing nin, you see, and we were interested in settling in the west, so in exchange for us escorting your merchant ship to the west, we'd like to have passage to the west. What do you think? Do we have a deal? The ship captain looking at him up and down and then seeing his group rubbed his chin. Kid, your group only has 3 fully grown adults along with a few teenagers plus a child. I don't think it's such a good idea. Naruto smiled a mild deceiving smile. Trust me sir, the only one who hasn't killed yet is the boy. My body count is already in the 100 while the adults have even more kills than I have, so trust us. Naruto moving closer to the ship captain and the merchant. We can most definitely defend your ship from any threat, okay? The merchant seemed like he was gonna faint while the ship captain looked apprehensive, but his face suddenly split into a wide friendly grin as he shook Naruto's hand. Well then, welcome aboard boy, you and your crazy friends. As long as you protect my ship on the way to the west, I promise to bring you to Genbu City where you can start your new life. This is the last big haul. The K's daimyo is getting angry over the loss of so many naval ships that attempt to patrol the trade lanes on his side, so this is the last month of trading for that legendary Kitsune wine everyone is addicted to here. And you can call me Machio Kurobasa or Captain Kurobasa. Naruto made a slight bow. Well then, Captain Kurobasa, when do we shove off? The sea captain laughed again. Haha, my boy, already speaking like a sailor, and to answer your question as soon as possible, your group's sleeping quarters are near the bridge. Due to the fact that you guys are security, you guys have to be close by to defend the ship. Those dumbass Ronin samurai ended up getting seasick the first day in open water. It was embarrassing. Don't sorry sir, other than the boy, all of us had learned to water walk already, so we don't get seasick easily. It only took a few minutes to get everything aboard, with Naruto being the helpful guy. That he was sending his shadow clones to assist in the loading of the supplies needed for the journey, much to the appreciation of the crew and Captain Kurobasa, and surprisingly the merchant wanted to carry his own equipment himself, as he hated forcing people to do things he'd be able to do himself, until Naruto assisted him by hauling his backpack full of paperwork to his room, which, surprising for a merchant, wasn't lavish like Naruto expected. Instead was mainly bare, other than a bookcase, a table and a bed. Naruto's group was built like an apartment with rooms for 2 or 3 people each, and despite not being lavish was very well maintained, with weapons lockers for all their equipment. Once again Naruto, Tenten and Fuice again bunking together once again, while Hotaru decided to bunk with Anko and give Utakata some space, and Guy and Lee were bunking together for the whole trip. At first the first 3 days went on without incident, other than Lee accidentally drinking a shot of vodka and went crazy. It took less than 5 minutes but would have damaged the ship if it weren't for the seals Naruto secretly placed to keep the ship intact in case of attack by pirates or leviathans, but nearly shattered when Lee had kicked it, thus proving that Naruto's group were strong enough. But on the 4th day the ship came under attack by a small pirate fleet that had surrounded the merchant ship. At this moment Naruto and his group were in key positions on the deck, as the pirates had sent someone to parley with Captain Kurobasa and the merchant were speaking to the first mate of one of the pirate ships. When the first mate had arrived, he had seen Tenten, Anko, Fu and Hotaru and started licking his lips as if anticipating the coming rape. Naruto, who had spotted how he looked at the girls, nearly caused him to personally destroy the pirate ships surrounding them if they did in fact try to hurt his friends and loved ones. The first mate was sitting smug as the captain and the merchant were tense as they listened to the pirates' terms. Alright, you land lovers, here are our demands. Our first demand is that you hand over any currency you have in your ship. Failure to do so will result in our boss ordering us to attack your ship and enslaving everyone on board. Our second demand is you hand over those bitches over there. I like how they look and looks like they'd be great slaves for me and the boys. That is our demands. It's a fair deal, right? As the first mate once again sat back down and waited for their answer. Unbeknownst to the pirates, Naruto had a small squad of exploding clones dive into the water and placed a huge amount of exploding tags on practically all the ships other than the main warship, and Naruto, who had an almost obsessive hatred for rapists and slavers, planned to torture the pirate lord and find out where he kept the slaves they had captured. Naruto, walking up to Captain Kurobasa, whispered, "I place a huge amount of exploding tags on nearly all their ships. Refuse their demands and I'll detonate the tags, and me and my friends will launch an assault on their main ship and capture that pirate piece of shit." Causing the captain to grin almost like a maniac as he turned back around. "I am truly sorry, Pirate-san, but unfortunately I have to refuse, as these women here could kick your and your best day, and the currency that we have is needed to pay for our wares. You see, we need to feed our families, you must understand." The pirate grew angry at this insult and angrily answered back, "You stupid piece of trash, who do you think you are, huh? We're the Bloodthirster fleet. We take what we want when we want, and you can't stop us. We'll rape those bitches and we'll enjoy every minute of it." Stab! The pirate looked down as he saw a ninjutsu rammed into his chest. As he looked up, as he saw a boy engulfed by light who moved closer and whispered into his ear, "Oh, Pirate-san, do you know what I hate most in this world? My main pet hatred are rapists, slavers and tyrants. Unfortunately, you're in one of those categories. Say bye-bye, you piece of shit." As Naruto started to pull his ninjutsus apart, completely cutting the pirate in half at the waist, and quickly leaned down and decapitated him as he walked to the stern of the ship and raised the pirate's head high into the air and pointed at the pirate lord with his ninjutsu in challenge. That's when all hell broke loose. All the pirate ships signaled by the main ship charged and prepared to board. Meanwhile, Naruto stood smugly and calmly put his hands into a handseal Tora tiger, and shouted, "Katsu." At once all the pirate ships exploded into flames, flinging pirates and planks of wood all over the place. Naruto watched as the pirate lord from a distance ordered his own ship to charge into their merchant ship, as the crew, who had armed themselves with simple weapons from oars to swords, and even the ship cook carried a homemade club, while Captain Kurobasa had a huge butcher's knife-like sword similar to Kibikiri Hako, and even the merchant had thrown off his formal kimono and now wore a samurai plate and had a katana at his side. As they all gathered together behind Naruto. Naruto, turning around towards those gathered behind him, he prepared to give them his speech. "Alright. These pirate shits wants to kill us with their fleet. Well, their fleet is gone. I blew them up sky high with exploding tags. Now that piece of shit wants to take us on himself with his personal ship. I personally want to capture that fat piece of shit and force him to watch as his flagship burns to the bottom of the sea. Then I'm gonna execute him with my ninjutsu by cutting off his head for his crimes. Who will help me?" With a loud cheer of "Rahh!" Naruto nodded. His body, engulfed in his chakra robes, looked like a heroic figure of old, and further raised everyone's morale with his presence alone. As the pirate flagship stopped just short of reaching their ship, as the pirate lord smirked at Naruto, Naruto suddenly sensed something moving underneath the water. Something big, very big. Captain Kurobasa shouted, "Shit! They have a leviathan. Prepare to repel the sea lizard." Naruto moved to the captain's side and put his arm on his shoulder, reassuring him, "Hold it, Captain, don't do anything yet. I have a certain ability that could help us, so don't do anything." At that same moment, the leviathan burst from the water, rearing its head. Roar! Causing many of the crew to fall back into the safety of the bridge, while Naruto's group stood stalwart in front of the sea lizard. Lagiacrus looked poised to eat them. Naruto, using his telepathic ability to speak to the sea lizard. "Hear me, Leviathan." The Leviathan stopped and looked confused before it answered back telepathically, "Who are you? How can you speak to me? Answer me, Ninjin. I am Naruto Uzumaki, successor of the Sage of Six Paths." "The Sage? Boy, do you think I'd fall for that? Do you think I'm gullible enough to believe you? You were gullible enough to become a pet of some pirate lord. How dare you? I had no other choice. You stupid little brat. Naruto, losing his temper, flared his power, making his robes flutter as if he had 10 wings behind him. I did not come here to argue with you, Leviathan. You are not my target. That fat bastard is the one I want to kill. To everyone who was watching, it looked like the Leviathan shrunk back in fear as it sensed the direct power of the Sage of Six Paths emanating from the young man shrouded in light. This power. You really are the Sage. I apologize for my harsh words, and I will willing serve you once again, my lord, as my ancestors had done before me. Good, now dive underwater and wait for my signal to destroy that ship. Yes, my lord. The Leviathan roared once again and dived underwater as he awaited his lord's order. With the Leviathan gone, Naruto without hand seal summoned 100 shadow clones that roared triumphantly as Naruto saw the pirate lord order his ship forward once again. The merchant crew once again emerged from hiding and prepared to repel the boarding party. Naruto hefted his kunai and threw it at the oncoming ship and shouted, Taju Kage Kunai Bunshin no Jutsu, multiple shadow kunai clone technique, as that one kunai multiplied into 100, turning one kunai into a deadly volley of steel which struck flesh and wood, and after striking and making a kill, exploding into smoke, leaving nothing but a corpse of the victim behind. Tenten herself unsealed a weapon that was a hem, acquisitioned by Tenten during one of their joint missions, the Tsurukume, a shield-like weapon she had taken off the hands of a thief and kept for herself. Shield itself had been one of the lesser weapons built by the weapon designer Io of Konoha. It had a built-in firing mechanism that could easily be loaded with ammunition through a compartment at the back of the shield, thus could continue to provide suppressing fire on any enemy foot soldiers. It was an impractical tool against shinobi, but against people like pirates who were incapable of using chakra, they became easy targets to the Tsurukume, which combined with Tenten's custom-made storage scrolls which could contain anything from 100 to 1,000 kunais, shuriken and senbon at any given time. Right now Tenten was behind the Tsurukume, sending a almost constant stream of kunai on anything that came too close for comfort. As finally the two ships were dragged together by hooks, the pirates leapt down, charging madly as the defenders battled to defend their livelihood, Tenten sealing away Tsurukume and drawing instead a katana and was easily slashing her way through the pirates. Meanwhile, with Naruto, he was leading a squad of his shadow clones into cutting their way towards the pirate lord, who was in his own ship, ordering his men to keep charging despite the fact that they were already getting decimated by Naruto's group and the merchant crew led by the merchant himself and Captain Kurobasa. Fu was fighting to his left. Flanking her were 5 shadow clones who formed a diamond formation around her as she used Hiden, Rinnegan no Jutsu, hiding in the scale powder technique, to paralysis the pirates around her, making them easy prey for Naruto's clones, who were impaling them with kunais either through sniping them from a distance of up close with a slash to the throat. Utakata were to his right, fighting back to back with Utakata using Suiten Homatsu no Jutsu, water-style bubble technique, to blast back the pirates or outright blowing them up to pieces, while Hotaru was using Suiten Mizoripa, water release wild water wave, to wash away the pirates overboard and subsequently drown. Lee and Guy was using Goken style, kicking the ill-disciplined pirates or crushing rips from blunt force trauma as they shouted about youth. While Anko was sending her snakes to bite and strangle any pirates who dare came too close. Any of them that got too close were stabbed to death by kunai. With all these skilled fighters, the pirates, after only a battle which lasted only 10 minutes, were completely massacred as Naruto leapt with his group to confront the pirate lord, who was with his remaining followers trembling in fear from the glowing warrior. They numbered only 5 in number and were quickly killed with kunais thrown by Tenten. Fu and Anko hit them straight in the neck with kunais, killing them instantly, leaving the pirate lord cowering alone. Wah, wait, can't we work something out, please? I'm a rich man, say the name Soshiro Naga, and you can get into any room in Genbu City, just spare me, please. Naruto shook his head in refusal. How about? Hell no. Naruto grabbed his hair, kicked him towards the other ship, landing on a pile of hay that was in the middle of where the pirate lord landed before being surrounded by the crew. As Naruto and his group ran to the railings, Tenten turned towards Naruto and asked, Naruto-kun, did you know there was that pile of hay there? Naruto, scratching his head, answered, no, actually I thought he'd break his neck upon landing. I didn't know there was hay there, but even better, we can hear the bastard scream as his ship sinks. Leaping back towards their own ship, Naruto approaches the former pirate lord who was gagged and bound and making him face his ship, turning back towards the pirate lord. Now then, I want you bastard to watch this, okay? He telepathically contacted the Leviathan. Alright, now destroy that ship. With pleasure. As the ship was immediately assaulted by the Leviathan, as it tore the ship apart, began to sink, the pirate lord was struck dumb by his ship being sunk by his own pet Leviathan, as he didn't notice a sword poised over his neck wielded by Captain Kurobasa himself, as he swung down the sword on his neck, completely decapitating the pirate lord completely. The Leviathan approached the ship once again, but this time in a less threatening display, and appeared submissive as Naruto walked up to the huge lizard and put his hand on its head. It has been a great pleasure watching you work. It has been a pleasure to finally sink that bastard's ship. I will go now to spread the word of your return to the Leviathans, and soon we will answer your call. With their conversation done, the Leviathan turned its head and moved away from the ship as everyone breathed a sigh of relief. For the last days of their trip, the merchant ship received no more trouble, and even occasionally receiving what seemed like an escort of Leviathans that seemed to swim in formation with the ship guarding it from harm. Finally, they spotted land in the distance. On the final day of their journey, Naruto was looking out towards the ever-brightening lights of the western continent, but felt a presence behind him as the merchant walked up to him and leaned against the railings of the ship. I know who you are, descendant of the sage. I know you are returning home. To your family's ancient homeland. And believe or not, I wasn't originally from the elemental nations. I was born in the western continent. You think you will find peace there? You are wrong. That place has been in a state of near constant war since the death of the last shoguns Yamamoto of the north and Baragan of the south died. Everybody has been fighting, in the short term of peace they founded died once again. Now the West is mostly ruled by tyrants, with the few honorable rulers fighting losing battles against the tyrants. Heck, the port we are docking at is the main trading center for slave trading. So be careful with the women in your group. Their beauty could lead them to getting captured by slavers to be sold as slaves, so be careful. After saying his piece, the merchant slowly began to walk away. Then Naruto called back to him, "Wait a minute, what's your name?" The merchant stopped mid-step as he turned around with a light smile. "My name." "You want to know my name? Then why didn't you say so? My name is Jishiro Yukitaki, merchant of wine and herbs from the western continent." Naruto nodded. "Then thank you, Yukitaki-san, for giving us passage, and I will take everything you said into serious consideration. Then I'm glad that I was informative to you. Wait a minute, can you tell me the truth? You are much stronger than what you portray yourself to be." Turning back around, Jishiro spoke. "Underestimation of an unknown factor is fatal to shinobi. Isn't that right?" Jishiro didn't even turn around as he continues to walk away. He called out, "Now then, let's get some rest. We'll be docking in a few hours' time, and in your journey, young man, I wish you a long life and happiness." After this, Naruto decided to call it a night and went to join his fiancées in their room, preparing himself for the days ahead. Little did he know that destiny was quite literally beating down his door as he slept. To be continued. A few months ago, post-battle of Tenchi Bridge in Konohagakure no Sato. After the Root Anbu had returned bloodied and half-dead, carrying a large scroll and literally gasping for breath, just arriving a few hours before, and the village was in a state of complete celebration, although nobody noticed the overly tense shinobis and shinobi clans who had earlier that day had lost many of their elder members in the shockwave of power in punishment for their secret despicable acts against the one deemed by heaven as the true child of prophecy, fully manifested in the flesh. The returning clan heads returned to their various compounds to find funerals for their parents and uncles and aunts, all who had taken part in the genocide of the three clans descended of the sage, and even though had gathered to find their leader Danzo Shimura missing an arm and an eye, he still through clenched teeth that they were to remain calm and not to disclose the many deaths in their clans, to be secretly buried in their own private cemeteries. Thus the civilians and non-clan affiliated shinobis danced in the streets, believing that they had finally killed Naruto Uzumaki, demon of Konoha. The higher-ups knew otherwise, and for this they were truly afraid. Afraid of the punishment that awaits their souls upon death. Afraid that Naruto would return as an all-destroying god of destruction and righteous punishment. Afraid that by sheer charisma alone would become a formidable force, with an army of like-minded powerful warriors, thus they knew they wouldn't live to old age. The Anbu, having stumbled through the streets during the celebration, was finally found by regular Anbus and taken before an extremely anxious shinobi council. Dragging the half-dead Anbu while another was carrying the large scroll unknown to anyone contained the badly injured Kakashi, Jiraiya and Sasuke. The first to demand and report about the current status of the rest of the task force was Kaharu herself. Anbu. Report: was the mission successful? The Root shaking his masked head as they heard the Root taking deep gulps of air before he answered, no. Mission failed. Primary objectives were partially achieved. The demon's supporters were heavily decimated, reduced to only a handful. Tsunade Senju killed in action protecting the demon. The demon. The demon. Here the Root shuddered and began to cower as remembering the slaughter but also a promise of divine punishment. We all thought he was dead. He wasn't. Just as we were gonna finish off the last of the demon's supporters. He came back from the dead, wearing robes made of pure light. It felt like a god had come down from heaven to punish us. I still remember the demon's voice. And I will tell you, it was as if I was hearing the voice of a living god. And the god was very angry. With that the Root Anbu took out a kunai and placed it across his throat before he said, we are all fools. We have all sinned against the will of heaven. There will be no mercy for any of us. And he dragged the kunai across his throat, making a deep cut as he coughed up blood and slumped forward with a cut throat as a pool of blood began to stain the floor of the council chamber. As the Anbu's blood reached a seal on the scroll, it released the badly wounded Jiraiya, Kakashi and Sasuke, all three unconscious from sheer amount of injuries. There was a stunned silence within the council room before a council member stood up and screamed, ah. We're doomed. The demon lives. We're all gonna die. Followed by the rest of the council shouting and screaming one another, and some of the more cowardly councilors were crying and shaking back and forth. This lasted for about 30 seconds before Danzo used his only arm to get everyone to calm down. Silence. Quickly calming everyone down and forcing others to sit down and wait for their chosen leader's orders. Alright, somebody get those three to the hospital and then we'll work out what to do next. 6 Anbu members appeared and carefully carried the wounded away to the hospital. Danzo leaned back in his Hokage chair and began to think. With so many of his assets badly damaged and his root decimated, his plans were postponed for 3 to 4 years before he could fully fulfill his destiny and rule over Hai no Kuni. He already had his puppets as counselors or governors, but now with Jiraiya out of commission he couldn't send any secret messages to his company conspirators. When he was ready, he will become the fire daimyo and rebuild the country under his wise leadership as Hai no Tikoku, Empire of Fire. Leaving the council room, Danzo entered the Hokage office. Danzo sat down, then called out, "Come, my puppet." Appearing from the ground was a strange creature with a Venus fly-like extensions appearing from his shoulders. "You called, master. I want you to send a message. Tell Toby we will have to postpone our plans for 3 years. I want your organization to capture as many of the demons as you can before the 3 years are up. I want all of the demons dead and in the ghetto statue ready to make me a true god." "Yes, master." Fading back into the ground, Danzo visibly relaxed and then smirked and thought, "Haha, Madara, you stupid fool, I control the organization you created for true peace. Instead it will elevate me into true godhood. Akatsuki, Red Dawn, is mine." The morning with near the city of Genbu. The merchant ship with Jashiro and Captain Kurobasa the ship into harbor as the enthusiastic sailors were chatting away with Naruto's group, thanking them for saving them, many of the sailors giving many of them heartfelt gifts, with the sailors themselves giving Naruto hand-carved Magatama necklace to wear around his neck in appreciation of giving them courage. Captain Kurobasa called out to his crew and Naruto's group, "Attention! Prepare for docking procedures. We've survived this trip. Let's not damage the ship by being dumbasses during docking." Naruto himself watched the docks as the workers pulled the ship into dock, but spotted a number of things that literally sent his blood pressure rising as he saw a line of slaves being led away into a slaver's ship. But knew that to attract attention this early in their journey would be detrimental to their efforts. Despite this, Naruto was one thread away from attacking when Naruto felt a hand on his shoulder and turned around and came face to face with a somber Jashiro. I can never get used to seeing the slaves here. Human lives traded for money. It sickens me to no end, but I have no other choice. All the other ports are led by various naval powers along the coast, and they tend to be very unwelcoming to strangers despite being traders, so these are one of the few places that we could dock safely. Whenever I have to shake hands with these people, I want to wash my whole body due to the filth I feel when I touch them. I would never want a slave. I may have servants, but they are not slaves. I treat my servants like family, calling them uncle or auntie or the younger one's cousins. Naruto nodded. I understand. If the West is in such chaos, then a leader is needed to lay claim to it once again. Maybe I could claim legitimacy if I take some land for myself and become a lord too. Jashiro moved to Naruto's side and leaned against the railings. That could be possible. You and your group are strong enough to do what you have mentioned, but I really do hope you know about politics as much as you know how to be a general. Naruto leaned off the railing and walked off, waving to Jashiro. I know enough politics. Besides, when I was a child I was taught by the third Hokage Hiruzen Sarutobi himself, so I know more than enough. We won't be staying in Genbu City. The place disgusts me. Jashiro, putting his hand to his chin in a thinking pose, sagely answered, May I make a suggestion? My parents' hometown Tamashi no Maki is quiet. It isn't big enough to catch many people's attention other than bandits. If you say my name, they'd let you in. Maybe I could even visit it later in my travels before I head back to Kase no Kuni to visit my parents' graves. Naruto nodded in appreciation for the generous suggestion. Thank you, Yukataki-san, for the suggestion, and I will take it into consideration in the very near future. Watching Naruto's back, Jashiro smirked, then whispered, Naruto-san, I sense that you are destined for great things. You, who is the successor to the Raikudo Sennin himself, may claim what had been enshrined within Sokyoku Hill. The Zanpakudo of the Raikudo Sennin himself. I await the day when I can serve you just as my ancestors had once done. Back with Naruto and Co. Naruto led his group down the gangplank to solid ground, where as soon as they arrived the various workers had already started leering at the females in his group, which was stopped by Naruto's killing intent, which had become so strong that when he concentrated could create the image of a Hanya mask of the Shinigami herself behind him, scaring the hell out of anybody who continued to do so afterwards. Naruto continued to ignore the various unsavory characters that continued to stare at them as they moved towards a reputable inn, which itself was heavily guarded by armed men, making the hotel one of the few places Naruto was willing to rest his weary head. Although just in case, Naruto placed security seals all over the place in case of attack. Little did he know that his rage at this city would be the spark that would start his rise to lordship, then emperor. The next day, Naruto and his group left late in the morning to explore the city. Despite being a place where slaves were bought and sold, there was many other merchant districts that were, in Naruto's opinion, a lot more decent than the slaver district, although it was really getting on his nerves the amount of collared inhabitants in rags that done the heavy lifting. Later in the evening, Naruto and his group were heading home from exploring when Naruto and his group heard a commotion up the street. Hey, come back here, little bitch. Turning ahead of them was a red-haired girl with a single glowing link of chakra chain emerging from her hand. The girl was bruised and dressed in rags and once again a slave collar around her neck. Naruto of course knew that this girl was one of his long-lost relatives in the Uzumaki clan and quickly shunshined and grabbed the girl, who seemingly grabbed his neck as if instinctually knowing Naruto. In a blink of an eye, Naruto shunshined back to his group, who were already in battle stances. Moving to Shizune, Naruto calmed the girl and whispered, Now little one, this woman is gonna help you, okay? It's alright, I won't. Those bad men won't hurt you anymore. This did little to make the girl let go, as she had a death grip out sheer fright, before Shizune smiled at her calmly and once again by instinct gingerly moved to embrace Shizune. Naruto, turning his attention to his long-lost cousin's pursuers, drawing out the most intimidating weapon he has and summoned the repaired Raijin no Ken and also summoned the lightning Kiba fangs and passed them over to a surprised Tenten, and quickly summoned the last of his looted weapons and handed over the late Zabuza's Kibikirako to Fu, who hefted the weapon with her Jinchuriki super strength with ease. Running towards them was a samurai in yellow uniform and gaudy golden armor, followed by some very ragged and underfed ashigaras and red-armored samurai. Naruto noticed the man in gold had a bleeding hand, which from looking at the situation, the Uzumaki girl had activated her bloodline to protect herself and had stabbed the man in his arm by the sharp end of her chakra chain. Stopping a few yards away after spotting the girl, the man growled out a challenge to Naruto's group, "You brat, hand over that slave girl or I will arrest you for aiding and abetting a runaway slave." Quickly all the civilians fled into their homes. Naruto, still having the unignited Raijin, answered back, "Why, what did this innocent girl ever done to you samurai besides? Who are you anyway to demand such young child to suffer?" The gold-clad man, shaking in growing agitation, answered back, "Who am I? I am Kuromo Gado, officer of the Lords of Genbu Personal Guard, the Gold Cloaks. As to why I want the slave girl, she was sold to me to become one of prostitutes working in my brothel. I was gonna break her, and when that thing in her hand stabbed me, I was gonna teach her lesson in respecting her betters when she ran away. Now step thee away from that little bitch now." Shizune, watching the fight, was examining the collar and gasped and moved to Naruto's side and whispered, "The collar on her neck has the same seal matrix as the Hyuga's caged bird seal, along with a pain seal added as well." Sending a dark glare at the men, he nodded to Shizune, and his group closed ranks behind him as he moved to the girl and began to examine the seal. The more he examined the seal, the more his rage became tangible in the form of golden wisp of energy forming into the nine-tailed form. Despite this, the girl kept calm. He stood up and gave a comforting smile to the girl and stood up, mumbling to himself, "Caged bird seal, pheromone seal, pleasure seal, these bastards were gonna turn this girl into a slave." Smiling at the girl, Naruto, channeling some of his six paths power, poked the center of the caged bird seal matrix, causing the collar to literally shatter like glass as it was overloaded by the most purest power imaginable. Naruto hugged the girl and whispered, "You are free now, little cousin." Those who dared watch the confrontation gasped in awe as Naruto had literally broken what many people believed was an indestructible slavery collar with pure power alone, causing many of those watching to gingerly reach for their collars, in a hope that they could be freed as well. Naruto, finishing his task, stood up and slowly began to channel his power and killing intent to godlike levels, and as has happened in Tenchi Bridge, had began to crack the pavement with each step and shrouding his body in pure light. This also caused the lesser samurais and ashigaras to back away in fear at this frightening being. The golden-clad man had still remained where he was, but it wasn't bravery that kept him where it was. No, it was Naruto's rage that caused him to stay rooted to the spot. With every step, Naruto, with his head lowered, was mumbling, "Never again. Never again." Looking up with his evolved Rinnegan, Naruto suddenly roared, "Never again, I will never let my family suffer." As he charged at the man and igniting the Raijin, decapitated the golden-clad warrior where he stood still, mumbling, "I promise to break the chains. This is the beginning of unification, I swear." Turning towards the frightened samurai and ashigaras who were kneeling in front of him in fear, with one man wearing a thin white headband and white straps around his shoulders staring at Naruto resolutely in respect rather than fear, bowing to the ground, the man said, "Please spare my friends, it was not our choice to follow that man." Quickly reaching for something on his neck to reveal another slave collar, "Please. We are slave soldiers, we don't have a choice on who we follow, and if you still wish for blood, kill me but spare my friends. I have no family left, but my friends have families. Spare them." Naruto, surprised somewhat by this man's request, decided to use his chakra sensing to detect whether he was telling the truth, causing him to smile when he detected he was telling the truth. Raising the sword in a side-slashing position, Naruto spoke, "I will honor your request." Cutting it across as if to slash their throats. Instead, a slight cracking was heard as the man's slave collar and his friend's collars broke apart to fall to the ground in a quiet metallic chink on the ground before Naruto cracked a slight smile and spoke, "By the end of this day, everyone in this city will be free of those twice heaven-damned slave collars. Now then, may I know your name, brave samurai?" Still trying to comprehend that he was no longer marked as a slave, the man and his fellow former slave soldiers, as he was still touching his neck nervously, hoping that it wasn't a dream, so much so that he barely heard Naruto speaking to him, before he ran and clasped Naruto's leg in elation, shouting, "My lord! My lord!" Naruto, kneeling down, looked at the man in the eye and asked again, Now, I'm no one's lord. Not yet anyway. Now I'll repeat my question, samurai. What is your name? Sentaro Katsubaki, sir. Well then, I'm Naruto Uzumaki. The girl with the bun-style haircut is called Tenten Higurashi. The girl with the green hair and dark skin is Fu, both of them being my fiancés. The two guys with the weird bowl haircuts, the older one is Maida Guy and the smaller one is my lifelong friend Rock Lee. The guy with the boonable pipe is Utakata and the orange-haired woman beside is Hotaru. Now the woman holding onto the little girl is my cousin Shizune Kato. Last but not least is one of my many mentors, Anko Mitarashi. Nodding his head and getting back up, Naruto saw the crowd of slaves looking at him expectantly, some holding small children that were already collared. Filled with righteousness, he went among the crowd, destroying the collars, and creating a number of shadow clones that began to do the same. Closing his eyes, Naruto decided there and then that he needed to take control of the situation. He remembered a lesson taught to him by Hiruzen Sarutobi. All that is necessary for evil to triumph is if good men do nothing. These were one of those situations that if Naruto did nothing, then even more people would continue to suffer at the hand of slaver scum like those leading the Genbu city. Just made him want to purge the filth, but no. It was needed intact. It had the necessary craftsmen and engineers necessary for when he wanted to do. Looking to the newly freed crowd, Naruto spoke, all of you WHO have suffered and all those WHO continue to suffer, hear me. I have seen your tears and I cry with you. I will not allow this to continue any longer. I will free you this city. By tomorrow morning this city will be free. Those who heard his speech cheered. It helped when Naruto was literally glowing in holy light with a equally shiny glowing sword to match and finish his outfit. All that I ask of you is stay out of the conflict that will end with these tyrants' deaths. Not because I don't trust you, but because I don't want anyone to get hurt, so stay in your homes and stay safe. When you emerge from your homes tomorrow, a new world awaits you free of tyrants and slavers. Naruto, finally finishing his speech, looked towards Sentaro and his friends and asked, I need to know your men won't interfere in what's about to happen and that you would fully support what I'm about to do. Nodding at the question, Sentaro answered, of the 10 barracks of slave soldiers which number 1,000 each, none support the current lords willingly or their personal bodyguards. Those so-called gold cloaks number about 2,000 strong and a few bandits who work as enforcers as well. Their headquarters is situated in the castle complex itself, where they retire for the night in comfort while we sleep in nothing but hay. If you free the rest of the men, I fully believe that you could control the city without much trouble. Good, I'm sending these clones to help free all of those men. Lead these clones to each of those barracks while me and my group launch an attack on the castle. Make sure no one intervenes until I light up a flare to signal your men to storm the castle. My clones will lead you in. Sentaro gasped. My lord, that's impossible. You'd have to kill dozens of enemies to get to the lords themselves. Naruto smirked and answered, in my old country I was known as quite literally a one-man army, so taking on some snobby shits isn't gonna be much of a problem for me. So, what is your plan of attack gonna be? Asked a slightly questioning Sentaro. Putting his hand to his chin, Naruto began to think, You know what? Screw tactics, I'm just gonna swarm the place. Once we breach the walls, charge in with your men. You'll have the assistance of my clones anyway. Kill them all, and if any surrender, I will judge them by tomorrow morning. Now how long will it take to get to those barracks? Well, it should take 10 minutes to get to the nearest barracks, so to finish maybe 1 hour to 2 hours, give or take. Smirking, one of Naruto's clones whispered in Sentaro's ear, not fast enough, Katsubaki-san. Before quickly shunning away, with each clone taking one of the soldiers by the shoulders and in doing the same. Turning towards his friends, Naruto smiled, now then. We wait for those clones to finish. 2 hours later, on the rooftops near Genbu Castle, Naruto and his group were sitting in a semicircle waiting patiently for Naruto's clones to finish their tasks. Naruto had his eyes closed as he meditated on certain weapons that could be obtained in the West. Within Naruto's mindscape, Naruto was sitting with his whole family as Madara and Hashirama were practicing with some strange swords, and being a Uzumaki with their weird tendencies to fiddle with things they really shouldn't have began to closely examine the swords before Hagoromo behind him answered his unheard question. Those are Zanpakuto. What's a Zanpakuto? They are swords that are reflections of a person's power and soul, and sentient beings unto themselves. The Zanpakuto's name is the name of the living spirit which empowers the sword and lends its strength to the person who wields it. These beings can vary greatly in appearance, and have their own distinct personalities, which match their owners. What? A talking sword that is awesome. A Zanpakuto's shape and abilities are based on their wielder's soul. Once a person learns his/her sword's name, they can communicate with one another and grow stronger together. Zanpakuto are born with their wielders but must be imbued into a blank katana to create a Zanpakuto, and they die along with their wielders in most cases. Swordmen use them in battle as a reflection of their heart. When released, they can display a vibrant power. Inside each Zanpakuto is an incarnation which manifests itself upon the Zanpakuto's transformation. The first step is to acquaint oneself with this incarnation. So manifestation of their soul in the form of a possessed sword. Interesting, I might try to get myself one. It would give me a huge advantage against shinobis in the east. You don't need to. My Zanpakuto is waiting to be claimed in the old imperial capital. Can't you feel it, a nagging itch in the back of your head, a small voice other than us who are known to you? I hear someone crying. That's the Zanpakuto's manifestation calling out to you, although why it would be crying is strange indeed. It seems your clones have finished their tasks. Get back to the real world. Time only progressed by about a few minutes, so get back there. Back in the real world. Naruto snapped his eyes open and stood up and looked towards his group of friends as he began to give them his plan of attack. Alright, the first wave is gonna consist of Bunshin Dai Bakuya hanged into fireflies. They will create the necessary chaos needed to launch the second wave, which will consist of reinforced shadow clones that will distract the castle security until Katsubuki-san's fellow soldiers join in the fight. Third wave will consist of Asukai. Lee assist Katsubuki's forces by bringing down the gates to let them in and continue to join the fight against the gold cloaks. Turning towards Anko and Shizune, Naruto gave them their orders. Mitarashi-san, Ito-Kochin, you two will be searching for any women used by those scum and move them to a safe location and screening. Turning to Utakata and Hotaru, okay, you two will clear the outer perimeters of those brigands and enforcers. When you had finished your task, move to assist in the courtyard battle. Turning towards Tenten and Fu, Tenten-chan, Fu-chan, you two are with me. Our main target clear is to clear out the main part of the castle, kill any gold cloaks that get in your way until we find that so-called lord and take his head. Konohamaru decided to pipe in, what about me, Nisan? Naruto smiled at his younger brother and patted his head. When the time comes that you must kill, I will be standing side by side with you, but not this time. Instead, I want you to summon a monkey summon and give this information to King Enma. As he handed over a scroll with the kanji for betrayal clearly written on the scroll itself. Konohamaru gave Naruto a confused look before Naruto began to clarify. If I know something about prophecies made by summons, is that all the other summons, no matter how opposite their clan's opinions, would still have to abide to the prophecy. So considering that literally Jiraiya the Toad Sage seems to still have the Toad clan's support, I want to bring it to the attention of the Konoha affiliated summon clans and let them deliberate and screw with summon clan politics. Also, I want you to take a detachment of shadow clones and protect my cousin. I sent her back to our hotel to rest. Konohamaru, I trust you to protect her with your life. Konohamaru with a firm nod immediately left to return to the hotel, followed by 5 shadow clones to assist in the guard duty of their hotel room, which at that same moment had a multitude of protection seals all over the doors and windows to stop forced entry. Now then, Naruto created a horde of his Bunshin Dai Bakuya and had them henge into fireflies, which quickly flew off in a huge swarm to perform their duty as suicide bombers as part of the first wave. Within Castle Genbu, a nameless gold cloak stumbled out of the loud merriment happening within their mess hall. Drunk to the point of seeing things in slow motion, this man and several other gold cloaks saw a huge swarm of fireflies, and thus, as with every drunken person imaginable, thought that it looked pretty, seeing the fireflies land all over the courtyard and several others. The nameless gold cloak caught one of the fireflies as he played with it and continued to stare as the firefly crawled along his hand. It didn't occur to him that these weren't normal fireflies until the fireflies began to grow brighter before exploding in one massed suicide explosion which decimated the whole castle grounds and killing all the sentries at their posts. Of the 2,000 gold cloaks, more than 700 had died in the mass explosion. Surprisingly, the damage was in human lives rather than in structural damage, and left huge amounts of dead gold cloaks in different forms of dismemberment. Back with Naruto's group, seeing and sensing the mass explosion, Tenten turned back towards Naruto and asked, "Isn't destroying the castle kinda detrimental to what we're trying to achieve by destroying the castle?" Looking towards Tenten, Naruto grimly answered, "Anything destroyed can easily rebuild. It's innocent lives that's important to me." Looking toward the castle, Naruto created the second wave consisting of shadow clones. "Alright, you know your tasks, get it done alright." With that, the second wave and third wave began their assault, each given a task that they needed to fulfill. With Naruto, Tenten and Fu moving among the courtyards, Naruto and Fu swiftly and deftly engaged the few organized gold cloaks, quickly killing them with kunais and shuriken, not really needing to use any jutsu to get rid of a few drunks. Coming to the main door, the trio encountered their first real resistance in the form of 4 fully armed gold cloaks with katanas drawn, along with 10 brigands with yari spears and clad in leather plate. Naruto and his 2 fiancés drew their weapons as they wordlessly launched themselves at the cluster of armored men, Naruto engaging the 2 gold cloaks in the middle with the Raijin no Ken in full power. Slash. Within the first sweep of the famed Senju clan, energy sword had cut the 4 lightly armored brigands, bifurcating them with just one swing. Clank. The 2 gold cloaks, thinking Naruto was distracted, attempted to stab Naruto from Naruto's left and right side, only to be stopped by Naruto holding up to one side a kunai and on the other the Raijin. Naruto pushed these men backwards, forcing the 2 golden-clad soldiers to become flat-footed in the process of staying upright. Naruto within a split second took advantage of this and summoned 2 links of chakra chains to grab the 2 men. The chains wrapped around the 2 men as both struggled to get free. It proved to be a futile attempt, as slowly the chains, in complete synchronization with Naruto's hands, lifted the men off the ground and kept the 2 struggling men suspended in the air before he dropped his hand rapidly and repeatedly. Smash. The men's arms were broken and their fancy armor had began to crack. Smash. The second slam had caused the armor to begin to pierce their ribs, causing the 2 men to cough out blood. Smash. The third time these 2 men had stopped struggling and had already died from blood loss. Naruto, satisfied with that the 2 men were thoroughly dead, dropped the 2 corpses on the ground as Naruto turned to see Tenten electrocuting her gold cloak opponent with the kiba blades which had been shoved down the mon's chest. To his right he saw Fu ending the fight using Hiden. Rinnegan no Jutsu is her own variation of the famous silent killing technique used by Zabuza. Using this, Fu had cut her last enemy in half diagonally with the Kibikiribocho. Both of his beloved stood grimly by his side as they prepared to destroy the door leading into what Naruto knew was the reception hall. Nearby, a squad of 20 shadow clones formed up behind them, preparing to storm the castle. Naruto forming a Rasengan spiraling sphere, and allowed it to grow to substantial size before shoving it against the door, grinding it to pieces as Naruto ripped it right out of its hinges. While this was going on, the others were finishing their main task as well. With Utakata and Hotaru at the outer perimeter. Utakata and Hotaru moved stealthily across the rooftops near the wall, sniping roving patrols of brigands led by a gold cloak samurai riding a horse. Utakata, using the silent killing technique, would use a kunai to separate the brigand from their leader, while Hotaru would target any unsuspecting brigand with a kunai to the neck, while Utakata singled out the gold cloak, often a bloated but also heavy-set man, and used silent killing to slit the man's throat silently, just like when he was a Kiri nin. They had already wiped out several patrols in this way, and from the looks of things that it was gonna be the last. Looking up, Utakata and Hotaru saw a flare being lit near the gate signaling the general assault to begin, and knew that Lee and Guy were successful in their task. With Lee and Guy near the front gate, arriving with their detachment of shadow clones, Guy and Lee faced off against a disorganized force, 20 gold cloaks and 50 brigand enforcers. Facing off against these men were a detachment of 20 shadow clones sent to cause chaos. It didn't help the gold cloaks that these two men were ultimately the most powerful taijutsu fighters in Konoha. Guy, in a moment of inspiration, began to shout, "Haha, look there, my youthful student. Our unyouthful opponents are in quite a disorganized group. Whoever brings down the most enemies gets to choose the training regime for the coming week." Lee, with stars in his eyes, half shouted, half answered, "Really, Guy-sensei? I will do my utmost best to show my springtime of youth. If I can't, I will swim back to the elemental nations while pulling a ship full of boulders if I fail." Patting Lee in the head, Guy happily answered, "Good, my student, that will surely cause your springtime of youth to blaze to new levels." Guy and Lee, unnoticed, was causing both sides to begin sweat dropping in confusion before somebody at the back near the gold cloaks shouted, "What the hell? Are you two a couple of weird cultists into BDSM and shit? Because if you are, please take it somewhere else, we just had dinner." A shadow clone turned back towards Guy and said, "Guy-sensei, we'll handle these guys. You two open that gate to let in Katsubuki-san's forces engage in battle." The clone turned back towards its opponents and drew a kunai and shouted, "Charge!" The 20 clones, which unknown to even Lee and Guy had Bakuya shadow clones mixed in, charged at the mass of men and soon began blowing themselves up, causing the already disorganized crowd to fall apart, with the gold cloaks charging at the oncoming shadow clones in hand-to-hand combat. Guy and Lee, knowing how important their job was, moved to kick down the massive gates. It was a massive metal gate with a large tree trunk keeping it locked. Guy and Lee, bracing themselves against the wood, quickly lifted the block as Guy kicked open the gates, as Lee attached a 5-second delay flare seal to a kunai to signal to Katsubuki that it was time to attack. Lee quickly ran back to Guy, who was already engaged in battle with 6 gold cloaks wielding Wakazaki short katanas in an attempt to kill, only for one of their members to be sidewinded by Lee, who had performed dynamic entry straight to the man's face, causing the helmet worn by the gold cloak to deform and crush the man's skull from impact, also sending the man flying limply into a nearby tree. The 3 gold cloaks had retreated and were having a showdown with Guy and Lee in an identical Goken stance, ready to fight off the gold cloaks, but at that only to hear behind them a roar of thousands of men rushing into the gate. Leading them were 10 of Naruto's 6-path cloaked shadow clones, who were all shouting, "For Lord Uzumaki! Death to the tyrants! Kill the gold cloaks, dogs!" Smiling at the now faltering gold cloaks, Lee and Guy shouted, "Let's go!" as Lee and Guy both charged headlong into the coming fray. With Sentaro Katsubuki and the assembled former slave soldiers a few minutes before the signal was lit. It didn't take much to persuade the various soldiers to join in the assault on Genbu Castle. It also helped and sped up the process of many of the soldiers declaring that Naruto was their lord. In every single barracks the cheer was the same: "Death to the tyrants! Long live Lord Uzumaki!" This had started after Sentaro and his comrades began to openly proclaim Naruto as their new master, this time willingly, and despite the attempts by Naruto's clones to tell them Naruto wasn't ready to be their lord, their explanations were drowned out in the many cheers that resounded all over the various barracks, leaving the clones to huff in frustrated acceptance of their coming lordship over the city. The men at this moment were armed and waited in the streets surrounding the castle. Armed in whatever they could find, each fully ready to die to finally be free of their enslavement. Sentaro himself was chatting with a Naruto clone about some things that he needed to do, including surrounding the castle so no one escaped that shouldn't escape. Scratching his head, Sentaro asked, "So, me and my guys charge into the open gate and start killing the gold cloaks? Oh, I can't wait. We've been wanting to get revenge for years now. It will be a pleasure to kill a few very soon." The Naruto clone crossed its arms and in a serious tone said, "Yes, just as long as you don't kill anybody unnecessarily. Have a unit secure the gold cloak barracks. Despite how much you hate them, Those gold cloaks' fancy golden armor could still be melted down into coinage, so don't damage anything that you shouldn't. Remember, this is not looting, this is liberation, understand? Sentaro proudly saluted and shouted, "Yes, Lord Uzumaki. I am sure that the men wouldn't want to touch anything in that castle anyway." Soon after, the massive explosion signaling that the first wave had begun caused the soldiers' morale to rise to even greater levels as they cheered at the destruction wrought by Naruto's clones. Quickly after, the flare was lit, signaling that Lee and Guy's mission was successful, as the men as one gave a loud cheer and charged into the castle led by Sentaro, and the 10 clones began to swarm into the castle gates. With Shizune and Anko. For Shizune and Anko, their task was more of a search and rescue mission rather than a combat task, so thus they used shinobi stealth to move through the growing chaos, with Anko using her snake summons to attack the few alert gold cloaks and brigands that still remained in their path, or if Shizune had a chance to, would silently chakra scalpels to slit the throats of unsuspecting enemies before they had time to react. Heading toward the part of the castle that most likely held the women by tracking pheromones that indicated constant UAL activity, both of them being women steeled themselves for whatever they were about to find, and also resolved themselves into giving mercy killings to any women that didn't have any hope left or asked to end their lives. Both women come upon a large rectangle-shaped warehouse building where the pheromones were strongest, moving into a double room clearing positions. Both nodded in an affirmative. Anko placed a low-level explosive tag which soon fizzled, finally exploding and literally blowing the door out of its hinges. Anko moved in quickly as Anko and Shizune used their senses to target half-shadows that were soon impaled by a barrage of Senbon and kunai. As Anko took a look around the room they had entered, they saw that the room was designed like a strip club, including what seemed like a stripper stage in the middle. Anko and Shizune spot a door and silently moved towards the room as Anko herself smelled blood mixed with the pheromones. Finding the door unlocked, Anko moved in first and gasped. All over the floor the bloodied forms of various women in various states of dismemberment and mutilation. "No, wait, master, don't kill me. Ag hhhhh. Spotting a gold cloak grinning wildly as he cleaved a woman in half along the waist, causing the man to laugh like a maniac as he watched the woman fall to the ground in 2 bloody pieces. "Ha ha ha, I don't listen to you, bitch, I don't listen to anyone." At this moment Anko had charged at the man and used Sanai Tajishu, many hidden shadow snake hands, to constrain the man as he began to struggle against the various snakes now holding him. Spotting Anko walking up to him, the gold cloak then grinned a maniacal grin. "Hey you. If you free me, I promise to make you into my personal. I swear no one else will touch you other than me and my friends. If you don't, once I get free, I will use so much I'll break your hips. Well, do we have a deal?" Anko smirking at the man and instead of answering him use a kunai on his hand, completely cutting it off before she answered, "How about? No. Sorry, but I won't be anyone's slave, especially not a piece of shit like you. Now I want you to answer me. Where are the rest of the women? If you don't answer, I will have my friends break every single bone in your body until you die." "Haha, you can shove that answer up your. I think not." Turning towards one of her snakes, "Alright, bite off his testicles first." "Wah. Wah, hey, stop that shit. Bite. Aw, my balls, you ing bitch." As a snake had moved into position and had clamped down and ripped off the mon's right testicle before swallowing it whole. "Alright, fine. Just don't eat anything else. They other girls are part of the personal harem of the Lord of Genbu and his sons. The bitches here are just the leftover from when they're done with them. In risk for you getting away with murder, I think not." From behind the gold cloak came a massive snake which clamped down on the man's entire upper torso as the snake slowly ate the man whole, as his muffled howling could be heard as the snake fed on the man until finally the snake had full eaten the man before the snake turned to Anko and said, "Thank you, mistress, for the meal, kind of gamey though, like wild boar." Shizune put her hand on Anko and gave her findings. "Most of these women are dead, but I found someone alive, but she recognized you from Konoha and wants you to speak with her." Nodding grimly, Anko found a teenage girl in rags and with brown long hair who looked up to Anko and smiled sadly, causing Anko to falter in her footsteps as Anko whispered, "Oh no. Kana. Hey there, Nisan. You've come to rescue us. It was a bit too late though. How's Naruto Ototo doing? Is he with you? Anko taking Kana's bloodied hand as Anko began to cry, Kana Imoto. I am sorry I couldn't protect any of you. For being so weak. I am sorry. Smiling towards Anko, Kana said, it's fine Nisan really. Quote. Turning towards Shizune, Anko asked, can she be saved? Shizune shook her head sadly. No, she had lost too much blood and her nervous system is so weakened it was a miracle that she even lived this long with such a large open wound, coupled with massive internal bleeding from a ruptured heart muscles. I estimate he only has a few minutes left to live. I'm sorry Anko-san. Shaking her head Anko answered back, it's a big problem. Kana here was one of Naruto's orphan sisters that were kidnapped by the various Konoha clans in acts of pure malice against him. Anko Nisan, I want to die. It's fine. Let me go. I am so tired. Thank you for being our older sister along with Hasana Nisan. Kana's hand suddenly went limp as she finally gave up her life and within a few shuddering breaths Kana had passed away. Grabbing a blanket nearby, Anko wrapped the blanket mercifully around her as she grabbed a scroll to seal the body in until it was time for burial. Shizune, who was watching sadly nearby, gasped as Anko stood up in state of complete rage as she growled, our task has failed. Now I'm gonna go on a killing spree. See you around Shizune-san. Anko walked out in the middle of a massive melee as gold cloaks and their subordinate brigands were trying desperately to stem the tide of angry former slave soldiers that were roaring to get a kill. Anko herself smirked as she went through a set of hand seals before shouting, Kuchio's no jutsu. Appearing from the resulting cloud was a huge that revealed a large blue snake with light green eyes. Alright Aoba-san, let's get killy. Yes Mistress Mitarashi. With Naruto, Tenten and Fu near the main chamber of the Genbu clan. While the battles raged on outside, Naruto and his fiancés had plowed through all of the guards and in total had killed at least 50 gold cloaks. Now they were at the door to the main chamber. In front of the door lay the corpses of various gold cloaks that had tried to make a last stand but had been swiftly cut down at these very doors. Naruto, sending chakra to his feet, kicked down the door with so much force that the doors themselves blew apart. Naruto, striding into the throne room, stared at several nervous-looking people in even more ornate and gaudy armor than even the gold cloaks. Some Naruto sensed wasn't even Chunin level, the strongest being only the man standing behind. Deciding to demoralize them further, he turned on his chakra cloak as Naruto spoke in a low, deep voice. Step. I am the breaker of chains. As Naruto took a step forward, the group backed away in fear. Step. Destroyer of those who would choose to make others suffer out of greed. A man emerged from the shadows from the right and was quickly cut down by Fu, who bifurcated the man with Kibikirihocho. Step. I will never allow such acts to go unpunished. For I have suffered the same. 4 of the group in front suddenly rushed at them in a panic, with Naruto smirking as a bright chakra chains burst from his back and impaled the men, and with a slight flick of Naruto's wrist the men were thrown aside as Naruto and his future brides walked even closer. Step. There is no mercy, no forgiveness. For your sins are many and great, and now heaven demands your blood. My ancestors demand you blood, for the Otsutsuki clan have returned to take back what is rightfully theirs. With this proclamation, the remaining members in front of the throne charged. Naruto, with barely any emotion, activated the Raijin and whispered, "Begone from my sight, scum." Emitting from the sword itself was a beam of light which sped towards the charging men and began to rip them apart until all that was left was body parts and bloodied armor. The ball of energy had completely obliterated the last protectors to the Lord of Genbu, who Naruto sensed was cowering behind his throne. But what he sensed, another chakra signature right next to the throne, caused his blood to run cold. A woman, or what remained of a woman, was chained to the throne. The woman or girl had both her arms and legs cut off. As this woman turned her head towards Naruto and his group, caused Tenten and Naruto to gasp. It was one of their long-lost orphan sisters. At this moment Naruto remembered all his friends, all of those he called sisters, his older adoptive sister Hasana and his adoptive younger sister Rukia, and then he remembered this woman. Naruto whispered her name, Kagero Nichan. No. Spotting the man attempting to flee to another doorway was stopped by a very bloody-looking Anko and guy followed by a whole horde of soldiers while behind him Sentaro and Lee had come up behind them. The Lord of Genbu backed away as he crawled across the ground followed by Utakata and Hotaru. Aho quickly restrained the man with rope as everyone watched Naruto embrace the poor slave of the Lord of Genbu. Rushing to the woman, Naruto and Tenten both help her as the woman gasped and opened her eyes. Naruto-chan. Tenten-chan. You two are alive. I'm glad. Naruto with tears in his eyes comforted Kagero. Ni-chan, it's alright. You're safe now, nobody will harm you ever again. Who did this to you? Why did they do this to you? Kagero shaking her head whispered back, no. They do this to any woman who tries to escape the Lord's harem. Every single time they would lose a limb. I tried to run 4 times. Every single time I failed. Looking towards Naruto she smiled. Look at me Naruto-chan, I'm in constant pain. If you truly care for me you will end my suffering. Please. Nodding towards Naruto's kunai holster. Nodding towards her drew a kunai as tears streamed down his face, causing Naruto and Tenten both in tears to embrace Kagero as Naruto whispered, I am sorry for being so weak back then. If I was stronger, I could have saved you. Shedding tears herself, Kagero answered back, I hold no regrets. For being your adoptive Ni-chan. I am proud of you. My little Naruchan. As Naruto aimed his kunai and pierced her spine as Kagero lost consciousness and finally died. Seeing that the Lord of Genbu was restrained, Naruto searched for a proper blanket or cloth to cover Kagero. Spotting a tapestry, Naruto solemnly reached for the corner and ripped it right off, revealing to everyone what was behind the tapestry itself. The Otsutsuki clan was revealed, causing everyone to gasp as a bright light illuminated the room as if welcoming home its true owner. But Naruto didn't see this. Still with tears in his eyes, Naruto began to wrap the body up for proper burial. Looking toward the bound Lord of Genbu, Naruto's face grew dark, causing many in the crowd to flinch. Raijin in hand, Naruto walked towards the squirming Lord of Genbu as he tried to squirm away before Naruto grabbed his face and slammed him into the ground face first. Sitting up, the man asked in a fearful, pain-filled voice, What do you want now, demon? Naruto didn't answer as he kicked the man down and angrily answered back, Do you know who that woman was, you scum? She was my adoptive sister. Taken into slavery out of spite for me. So what? Slaves are a commodity. I could do whatever the hell I want with them. They were my property. They lost the right to freedom once they were in chains. This answer got the Lord of Genbu a punch to the face, breaking all of his teeth in the process. Naruto smirked and answered back, just with that answer I know my reasons for getting rid of your family was correct. But I won't kill you. No, the people of this city will perform the execution. Everybody deserves their pound of flesh. Quote. Turning towards a group of soldiers and samurai, he gave them his orders, bring the Lord and let the people vent out their frustrations on the Lord of Genbu. These men saluted and said, Yes, Lord Uzumaki. The group of samurai and soldiers dragged the screaming former Lord of Genbu to be beaten to death by the former slave population. Turning back towards the throne, he grabbed the pillow and ripped it off as he kicked the throne to the ground and sat down. He saw the whole entire crowd kneeling before him in reverence, causing Naruto to sigh before he answered in a loud voice, I, Naruto Uzumaki, hereby claim the lordship of Genbu City and rightfully the whole of the Genbu region. If any of you object, please say so now. A samurai in red armor stood up and shouted, All hail Lord Uzumaki. More and more soldiers stood up as all began to shout in unison, Long live Lord Uzumaki. Naruto looked at all his friends and smiled wearily. He had planned to take it slow and start out small, but he was resolved to this path, and finding out that not only one of his sisters and a younger cousin, he now had a ton of responsibilities. He would do what he can to help and exterminate all those who would go against him. He still shuddered about the ton paperwork he was due to receive. The slaver dynasty of Genbu would end on this night. In the morning the city will awaken to a new ruler. A young, ambitious and most especially a kind man had taken the reins of government. From this city, once a city full of misery and greed, was the beginning of a great empire, an empire literally blessed by the gods themselves. The slaver families themselves fled to the Kuro-Tori Alliance territory in northern Genbu region to attempt to dislodge the new ruler of Genbu City, effectively splitting the region in half. Whole in the south, the brother of slain Lord of Genbu Lord Yoshimoto masses an army to kill the upstart lord.